Hey everybody, welcome to Movie Geeks United. It's that time of year again where the movie geeks go through the films released in the summer season. This year we're on 1998. Who can forget that year? And once again, as is tradition, we're joined by Aaron Aradillas, our once-a-year reunion.
Howdy, guys.
It's good to have you.
Good to have you,
Thank
Aaron. Yes, it is.
Good to be here. It's a good summer. There's a good summer. I'm looking forward
Is
to
it? Okay.
Did it get the job done?
There's a couple of there's a couple of movies here that are on my top 10 list from that year. So
there are some good ones. Yes, I will agree.
Okay, let's get with it. On May 1st, some of these I'm just gonna, because I don't know anything about some of these.
Okay.
Like A Friend of Deceased.
Drawing a blank.
So let's go through the ones that are more readily recognizable. Black Dog. That's that Patrick Swayze Meatloaf thing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Filmed right down the road from where I live. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, I remember it. Not the worst thing I've ever seen. It's not.
Is it better or worse than Convoy?
I think it's better, actually. Convoy is not Peckinpah's best film by any stretch, and I think Black Dog's a little bit better than that. Although it's no great shakes, it's tolerable and watchable and a fine rainy afternoon pick.
In the Swayze family movie pantheon, I give the slight edge to Fatherhood from '93.
Oof.
Well, Black Dog's a little bit more preferable for me, but that's just me.
Yeah.
Okay, Black Dog. It's no fatherhood.
Yeah, there you go. That's the tagline.
That's the poster.
Yes.
Dancer, Texas, Population 81, and Go Now. Do we know what those are?
Yeah, I actually saw Dancer, Texas, Population 81, mainly because, obviously, I live in San Antonio, South Texas, so it's filmed in a small town. It's a very, obviously, you can tell just by the title, it's one of those little indie kind of small town life things, and it's four friends, and who the one like fun running gag in the film, but it's also kind of poignant, is like they have these kind of heart-to-heart conversations where they sit in these lawn chairs out on the highway, just waiting to see cars go by, and they'll be there for long stretches without a car, but they have these kind of heart-to-heart conversations, and like two of the friends they want to leave town. They got these plans to leave town, and so that's an old thing, going all the way back to like American Graffiti. And so it's a very, the acting is very good. It's a good ensemble, young cast. I think the biggest name entity is Brandon Sexton. I believe he's in it. He was a good actor. He was in Welcome to the Dollhouse, and a couple other movies. I remember at the time, I haven't seen it since then. I remember at the time, the acting was good, but it's a very slight film, and it was one of those kind of like, I saw it and I was like, well, this person has promise, but I don't think they were given much of a second shot. If they were, I don't.
Okay.
I don't know what the follow-up film was.
The Les Miserables from that came out that day. That was the Liam Neeson, Jeffrey Rush, Uma Thurman one. Was that any good? Was that a good version?
It's fine. I remember.
It wasn't done as a musical though, right?
No. This is a straight version.
Yeah.
I remember Jeffrey Rush is the cop. The cop. I'm blanking on the character's name of the cop. The problem is that it was obviously it's the Hollywood version of it, which is fine. It's good production values and these are good performance. The problem is it came just 2.5 years after the Claude Chabrol version with Jean Paul Belmondo, which is kind of like the that is really the definitive version of Les Miserables. That version, because it's set in World War II, so it's the Les Miserables, but it's been updated in World War II, so it's given this kind of new life, new urgency, and so this one just kind of was a little bit paint by numbers version.
Yeah, I thought that was the Claude Lelouch. Am I wrong or?
Well, Claude Lelouch. Claude
Yeah,
Lelouch. That's right.
Sorry, I mispronounced it. See, I goofed up too.
Yeah. Yeah, Claude Lelouch.
Javert. Javert is the detective's name.
Yeah.
Right, Javert. And Jeffrey Rush is good at that.
He was on fire at that time.
Yeah.
Before he got fired. Okay. Do we know Shooting Fish, Still Breathing, or Wild from that day?
Wild, I did see. That's
Oscar Wilde biopic or something?
Yeah, and it's good. It's actually a good. It's a good, pretty good biopic. I mean, it's very much in the. It's not Merchant Ivory, but it's done in that kind of that Merchant Ivory style. But it's actually pretty good. The lead performance of Oscar, I can't remember the actor at the moment, but I do remember at the time when I saw it being very, very good.
Stephen Fry, right?
I think so. Yeah.
I believe so.
And actually, it was noteworthy because it was like I think the first Oscar Wilde biopic that actually did not code his sexuality. It actually finally dealt with.
What Wilde biopics were there before that, or was he just a character in movies before that?
He's been a character in movie, but then there's the classic with the trials of Oscar Wilde.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Did we miss He Got Game? That was the same.
No,
day.
we didn't. I was saving it for the last since we
great.
have the most to say about it.
I was going to say
all right, yeah, I got the list right here.
He
Got Game, Spike Lee, Denzel, and who was the real life basketball player that played the
Ray Allen, and this was Rosario Dawson.
I tell you
Ray
what,
Allen
there's a line in that movie that comes up quite a bit in my mind. When he's saying, where he's trying to sell him on the college and everything, and they're giving him all the bells and whistles, offering him all that stuff and to sell him on the college, and they show him this super expensive sports car. I swear this pops in my mind all the time, where the guy says, "You can look like fucking Buddy Hackett, and if you're driving this car, you're gonna get all the girls." I don't know what the Buddy Hackett reference in He Got Game.
Yeah, nobody would get that today, unfortunately. Completely lost.
Also from Rosario Dawson.
He Got Game is one of my favorite Spike Lee movies, actually. And I'm a big fan of Spike Lee, even though there are several films that I just think are awful in his resume. But I He Got Game is I always say my top two favorites are 25th Hour and He Got Game. And I love He Got Game for the same reason I love the best of Spike Lee, is that he's not afraid to go operatic at these big stylistic swings. And I know the ending got a lot of criticism, where he's kind of tossing the ball to his son, the next generation, and Spike Lee films it literally. But I really like that. I really like that boldness that he has.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's a great movie. It's a terrific movie. It's I mean, it was coming off of. He hadn't done a movie like in a year and a half, because he did the two movies in '96, Girl 6 and Get on the Bus, which are very, very, very small, kind of rough movies. Get on the Bus is really good, but then he hadn't done anything, and this was kind of a big thing. This was for Touchstone. And it was like his basketball movie, and everyone had been waiting for Spike Lee's basketball movie, and it just has all this visual pop to it. I mean, the big thing also, if you're a diehard Spike Lee fan, it was terrific. He got Public Enemy back to do the theme song, the title song, just like in Do the Right Thing, and it had a liveness, and he it was a new cinematographer he was working with. And it had a new visual style that he was using.
Yeah, he worked with, I don't know, I forget who the DP of He Got Game is. I know the DP of Summer of Sam was
Ellen Harris.
Yeah, we had her on years ago, and yet his Spike Lee has this signature look in a lot of his films. So it's not like wildly divergent in style. You could see it and see that it's still a Spike Lee. So, but whatever new accent they're able to put into it, they probably have to adapt to his way of seeing things. This one had 2 DPs. He got game.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That was just
Ellen Kuras and Malik Saeed.
Yeah.
Right. And then, of course, the real thing that gave that kind of just really put over the top was the way he employed the Aaron Copland music, and it just that was. I mean, he really has like 3 scores in that movie, because there's Aaron Copland music that he uses, there's Public Enemy songs that he used, and then there's Terrence Blanchard that's also, which is, so it's just kind of an amazing musical tapestry. And Ray Allen was a good actor. Ray Allen, he could have acted if he wanted to, but he made the right career path. He got a championship with the Milwaukee Bucks. The fun little factoid: he originally went to Kobe Bryant with that movie, and Kobe turned him down. That would have been
probably for the best.
Yeah.
Wasn't this a Disney movie? Touchstone.
Touchstone. Yeah, he did 4
amazing
movies with Touchstone. It was that,
Summer of Sam. Oh, that's my third favorite. Summer of Sam.
Yeah.
And then 25th Hours Touchstone and Santa Ana's Touchstone.
How far we've fallen.
To be fair, all 3 of my favorite Spike Lee movies are kind of interchangeable. I can't say I prefer one over the other. But and that DP Saeed, the movie he did right after he got game was Eyes Wide Shut. He was in the camera department of Eyes Wide Shut.
Oh wow!
Factoid.
Factoid.
Yeah, I need to revisit this one. I liked it a lot, and I don't think I've seen it since it came out, and it wasn't intentional. It just happened. And there's a Blu-ray double feature that has He Got Game and the 25th Hour together as one. So got them both on the same disc.
Two astonishing movies.
Yeah.
Going to go down to May 8th now. The biggest release of that weekend was Deep Impact. No, not the adult film. The Meteor, the second meteor striking Earth thing.
The first of the 2 asteroid movies. I know a lot of, 90s had a lot of disaster movies, so I do know people who really like this movie. I think it just came out on 4K.
It did.
A couple of months ago. I remember I saw it. The highlight in the movie, obviously, is at the time the novelty casting of Morgan Freeman as the president. That was like the highlight. He's very, he's good. It's a very Morgan Freeman performance. But the rest of it, it's basically an update of those old Irwin Allen movies from the 70s. The problem is those Irwin Allen movies, they had kind of a trashy energy to them. When
right.
you see someone
and this one is all respectable,
really
high drama, melodrama. Yeah.
It takes itself so seriously.
Yeah.
And when we get to the other one, we can talk about the defaults of the other one later on this summer. But if you saw the trailer, you saw the best stuff in the movie. I remember I think the big shot is that wave engulfing the Statue of Liberty.
Right.
It's always like the big shot. But
now, Adam and I were talking about this the other week when he was talking about the 4K release of it, and so just confirm this for me, Aaron, if you have any memories of it, that I'm not going crazy. There's a scene in there where that Ron guy, the guy from In the Company of Men, Ron, whatever his name is.
You mean Aaron Eckhart?
No, the one that played opposite him.
Oh, well, that guy's name.
No, not that guy. Not that guy. He's in a Neil LaBute movie. What Neil LaBute movie is he in?
Is it Your Friends and Neighbors or?
Yes, maybe. Hang on, I gotta type in Deep Impact to look up this guy. I almost typed in Deep Throat just on reflex.
Ron Livingston.
Ron Eldard.
That's right.
Ron Eldard. Some accident happens and he's blind, and he's in the spaceship, and Robert Duvall is reading a book to him. Do you remember that moment, or am I going crazy?
That's correct. That one, I just rewatched it. So, yep, you are.
Oh,
correct.
you did? Okay. That's I don't know why. That's the only thing I remember about Deep Impact. because I remember rolling my eyes at that scene.
I was
Go
just
ahead,
going
Aaron.
to say real quickly, it's a mixed bag. It's kind of silly in the beginning, and I was kind of moved by it by the time it ended, during the last half hour. So it kind of runs the gamut from one extreme to the other. For me, it's a mixed bag for sure. But
you get like 4 or 5 of these storylines. I mean, you got the president, you got the astronauts, you got Taya Leone and her father, and then I think you got, is it Elijah Wood?
Yeah, that's
Sean
correct.
Astin?
He's the one that discovers the.
Right, you got Elijah Wood. So you got like 4 or 5 of these little mini dramas going on, and basically, because they're so spread out, you're just kind of like, okay, well, I don't like this one, I prefer the other one. Or, so you have kind of like, you're just waiting for them to jump to the favorite story.
Well, it was a big hit. I mean, it was a hit, and I don't know how big it was. It was
a big hit, and what is, I guess, noteworthy and should be applauded, it was because it was a DreamWorks movie, and DreamWorks was just getting up its feet and up and running. It was the second major feature directed by a female director, Mimi Leder. She's actually a good director. I much prefer her first film, Peacemaker, the George Clooney. That's also a formula film, but that has her directing of that one is a much more economical and just a little tighter than this stuff.
Anything else on that month? Africa's Elephant Kingdom, The Kingdom Part 2. Oh, we got a kingdom theme going on. Louisa May Alcott's Little Men, Shopping for Fangs, or Woo?
Woo, that's been when Jada Pinkett was like normal and trying to have a career, but it wasn't very, very good. And Little Men, that is based on a book, but it's just, no one likes to say it, but it's an awful book and turned into an awful movie.
Woo, co-starring Tommy Davidson. What happened to that guy?
He does. I mean, he's like a veteran on the stand-up scene now.
Are you still doing stand-up? Okay. I haven't seen him advertised or promoted at all in decades. No. But he was the first celebrity I ever saw in Los Angeles was Tommy Davidson in an Armani store. Okay, May 15th. There's a few movies here that we need to discuss. We'll start with Bulworth.
The first 45 minutes are brilliant, and then it kind of sputters after the first 45 minutes.
When it becomes a love story?
Yeah, and then it just kind of, and then it doesn't really go anywhere with what its points. It just kind of like, then it has to kind of play out the scenario. But that first 45 minutes of the anger and the shock of what the Beatty character, that's a lot of fun, but then it just kind of...
I think you're right. I think the premise that was so hysterically spelled out in the trailer is all that was really appealing about the movie. I will tell you, the oddest placement of a Morricone score I've ever heard. Like,
that's so true.
That movie needs a Morricone score. I love Morricone, but
it's one of those, what Beatty wants, Beatty gets. I guess he wanted to work with Mark, which is odd because the actual soundtrack is the best part, the hip-hop soundtrack. Ghetto Superstar is a great summer song. But I
even remember, I mean, he employed Morricone for Love Affair, and he loved Morricone. And actually, there's this like 3 or 4 disc CD set of Morricone scores that came out in the 90s, and Beatty's quoted in the liner notes. I mean, so he loved him, but the score is just awful for this movie.
Yeah, I
agree. The one who steals the movie, who keeps that second half watchable, is Don Cheadle. Don Cheadle's amazing in that movie. He kind of keeps you watching. But I mean, it's clearly Beatty trying to recall his, the new Hollywood radicalism and trying to do a throwback to that in his own way. But like I said, and it just kind of, like I said, peters out in the final act. And James Toback, I guess, I know he did a rewrite. I don't know if he's credited, but I know he did a major rewrite on that in the first half, at least. which should be noted because I think a movie we didn't get mentioned that came out just 2 weeks before this, in the first of the month, was Two Girls and a Guy, the Robert Downey Jr. movie, came out the same week as He Got Game, and that that made my top 10 list. And that's one of Robert Downey's greatest performances.
Yeah. Okay, the biggest hit that was released that day is Robert Redford's The Horse Whisperer.
Another Touchstone film.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Richard LaGravini's screenplay. He has a couple of amazing screenplays. He has 3 this year. This is the first one because he also, in the fall, he has Beloved and Stepping Out Loud or whatever.
You know my least favorite part of The Horse Whisperer? Robert Redford. Not as a director. I think it's beautifully directed, and I am interested in the story of the daughter and the mother, and the crumbling marriage and all of that kind of stuff. I'm into that, and Redford directs that with, he's very, very observant director. I mean, he knows, like in little insert shots, he could really pump up the drama of a moment. I mean, he's a very smart director, but as an actor, especially in The Horse Whisperer, his need to be fucking worshipped, where he doesn't speak like a normal person, like everything out of his mouth is a wisdom, it annoys the shit out of me. You never see a real, an actual person.
I think he's fine in the movie. My problem in the movie, and it's kind of a lazy complaint, but I do think it applies here. I just think it's too long. It's 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Definitely.
And I'm usually not one to complain about length. I can tolerate length, but because you could probably trim this by 10, 15 minutes, and probably would have helped. What is, I guess, noteworthy is that it's a very, very early Scarlett Johansson, and you could tell if you go back and watch it, you can tell even then that she had something extra as a young performer.
The girl with something extra. Quest for Camelot came out that day. The only thing I know about this movie, I know it's a Warner Brothers animated, but Steve Perry has a great theme song for Quest for Camelot called I Stand Alone. It's great. I play it often.
I think it was nominated for Best Song. I could be wrong. I just remember 1988 nominees for Best Song for that year are like 5 of the worst songs.
Not this one. Lawn Dogs, Off the Menu, The Last Days of Chasen's, which I've seen. Chasen's is the world famous, well, probably not anymore. The kind of the Hollywood infamous
West Hollywood restaurant.
Yeah, a restaurant that closed down after serving generations of the biggest stars on the planet.
Yeah.
I'd recommend it. It's a I don't know how many bells and whistles the movie has but it's a good nostalgia piece now.
Yeah.
What made the documentary fascinating is that the documentarians, filmmakers, they were smart. They really didn't bother with the celebrity interviews. They interviewed the staff who had all the stories.
Yeah.
Like the main guy, I forget the main waiter host who he was one of the few guys who could call Sinatra Frank.
There's a similar movie that came out a couple of years ago, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's from the director of the guy that just did the Alan Pakula documentary.
Right. You talking about Off the Menu? Is that Off the Menu?
No, that's what we're talking about right now, Off the Menu, The Last Days of Chasen's. But this documentary was about a hotel in New York City.
Oh, yeah.
Chelsea?
The Royalton or something like that.
Or, not the Chelsea. This was an elite.
Okay, I mean,
and they much the same thing. They interviewed all the staff, but the staff wouldn't share any stories because they had respect for the famous people they served, so they wouldn't talk out of school. Which I guess is the appeal of that hotel to those celebrities,
If I remember the filmmakers of this Chasen documentary, I believe these are the ones who would go on to do American Splendor.
Yes.
That's correct. I was going to bring that up.
Pulcini and Sherry Bergman or whatever Bregman, whatever.
Yeah, that's correct.
Right, and that's one of the best films of '03. So
yeah, good stuff. Speaking of good stuff, not really. May 19th belonged to Gojira. Gojira.
Although bad as it may be, I still prefer it to the one from 2000. What was it, 14 or something? Because at least they showed Godzilla in that movie, whereas in the 2014 one, I think we were 75 minutes into the movie before he appeared, and then he was only in it for, I don't know, maybe a total of 10 minutes for the entire runtime. So.
Some of these movies, I quit with my experience of managing the movie theaters at the time, and man, the amount of people that came out of that theater saying, "It's too loud! It's too loud!" And honestly, it was freaking loud. I could be in my manager's office and I could hear the trembling of the bass and everything. It was a loud movie.
I much prefer, and it's faint praise, but I much preferred the 2014 one because they were using the Jaws principle. Build up, don't have to show it that much to
yeah, but to be honest, this version of Godzilla also calls upon Jaws.
But poorly. And,
yes. I didn't say it did it well.
And the only sequence that I remember, I saw it once, the only sequence I remember with any, like that was kind of cool, it's like, okay, go that route, is the final, chase, and there's a scene where, the car is in Jaws' mouth, in Godzilla's mouth, and it's like, okay, that's kind of, that's so absurd, that's fun, but until you get to that truly, Toho absurdity, this one, like the Deep Impact movie, it dares to take Godzilla seriously. And that's the one thing you do not need to do in a Godzilla movie,
right.
From the director of Independence Day. I'm a Matthew Broderick fan, obviously, Ferris Bueller and Election and all this other stuff, Glory and all this stuff, but he's miscast as the scientist who discovers Godzilla. He's so milquetoast. He has no authority whatsoever. Unlike, if you look at Independence Day, Jeff Goldblum is brainy, but he also has authority. Matthew Broderick does not.
That's true. That is something to consider. Because I was about to say, do the humans actually matter in a Godzilla movie? But if you think about Jurassic Park being a similar kind of monster movie, Spielberg makes those characters specific. They pop.
I think Election came out the next year, so maybe that's why he retreated to smaller films. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
Gojira.
I'm sure. It sounded like fun, and it was a change of pace, and Broderick has done the big movies. War Games was a big movie.
That's true, yeah.
And so he, I'm sure he thought it was a good idea. And this is, like I said, this is the follow-up to Independence Day.
Tower Heist. Come on. Tower Heist.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Speaking of which, off topic, just for 2 seconds, they've been test screening Beverly Hills Cop 4, and the test screening's gone through the roof. So they're thinking of, instead of releasing it next year, they're thinking of doing it this year. Because people are saying it's really funny. So here's hoping.
I guess it'd be another. The first one was a Christmas release, so there you go.
May 22nd, 2 movies worth noting: Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Didn't see it.
I actually saw it twice in theaters, and not because I was a diehard Hunter S. Thompson. I really don't like Hunter S. Thompson, but I did wind up seeing. I saw it with a friend, and I saw it with my dad. And
which of those screenings did you take acid?
I'm not a Terry Gilliam, devotee.
Me neither.
I admire some of his. I will say his 90s stuff is probably the peak, because basically you get Fisher King, which is a good movie, not perfect, but there's greatness in Fisher King, and then his best movie is 12 Monkeys. I think that's his best movie. And then of course you get this, and then I just bought that Criterion Brazil Blu-ray. I have not cracked it open, but I saw that once when I was a kid. Didn't really get it. So I want to give it another chance. I haven't watched that again. But going on this film, there's stuff in it that is admirable because it's so out there, and it is in keeping with the book. Johnny Depp's performance is one of those go for broke performances that you do that is pretty astonishing, but it doesn't really, by the end, it doesn't add up to a lot. But it's not worst of the year. I know it made some critics worst. I know it made a lot of best of the year, and I know it made a lot of worst of the year. I'm in the middle. I don't think it's obviously best of the year, and I never thought it was worst of the year, but because there is good stuff.
Adam, any thoughts on it?
I didn't really respond to it at all when I saw it. I saw it when it came out, and it just didn't do anything for me. And Hunter S. Thompson, his writing is hit or miss for me. Sometimes I think he's brilliant. When he did a write-up after the passing of Richard Nixon, I laughed till I literally fell on the floor. I thought it was hysterical. But then, some of his other stuff is just not for me. So I don't know. It just didn't really resonate for me. I appreciated some of the visuals, but just wasn't. It was what I perceived to be an unfilmable book, and it was pretty much a movie that shouldn't have been made. That was my takeaway. But I don't know. I may feel differently now. Maybe I should revisit it. I know they're a fan, so who knows?
Hunter S. Thompson has one mention in my book.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. He interviewed a woman that had an affair with Nixon. So he has a place in my book for that.
I keep meaning to go and watch Where the Buffalo Roam, which is kind of like the other kind of version of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, but with Bill Murray, Peter Boyle. But I've yet to.
The Opposite of Sex came out that day. I do recall this movie a little bit. Even more so, I recall all the promotion for it, which was Christina Ricci in a bikini.
Mm-hmm.
I did not like this movie. This is one of those Exhibit A, Sundance,
right,
black comedy oozing with irony, but at the end, the irony is masking some heartfelt emotion kind of thing. I mean, it's just kind of you're getting a big sensation at a Sundance, and they thought it would be like this alternative, like indie hit, and I just didn't like it. It's just too ironic for my own taste. The other Christina Ricci movie that comes out this summer, that we'll get to in a little bit, has similar tropes, but it's lacking the irony. So therefore, I think it's a much more emotionally stirring film. Has definitely had more humanity.
Essentially, I'm against anything that's the opposite of sex. That's where I fall on this. May 29th.
I was going to say I kind of liked it. I remember I didn't love it. Wasn't over the moon about it, but I thought it had its moments when I saw it way back then. But then again, I haven't seen it in 25 years. So again, my opinions may be different now. So anyway,
and I remember this was the Lisa Kudrow movie. And at the time, she was the last friend who hadn't done a movie since the launch of the show. They were all getting their movie, and so she went the indie route. So that was also a little bit of the movie's cachet.
May 29th. Chris Farley and Matthew Perry and Almost Heroes. I would assume this is another disposable. I don't remember anything about it.
Yeah, it was the last film of Chris Farley's. It was made before his finish. He was dead by the time it came out, so that was the big selling point on it, was the final film of Chris Farley, and directed by Chris Guest, I believe.
Really?
Yeah.
All I know is I can't believe Chris Farley's gone and Matthew Perry is still walking the earth.
Yeah. I used to think he had great comic timing. He had kind of like Matthew J. Fox vibes, Michael J. Fox vibes for me for a while.
Can you imagine what the drug intake was on that set between the two of them? I can't imagine. Mind boggles. That may have something to do with the final product, or why it didn't quite make the grade. Don't know.
The biggest hit that opened that day was Hope Floats.
Yes.
Sandra Bullock, directed by who?
Forrest Whitaker.
Right. Okay.
Which it always bugs me that people always Forrest Whitaker's directorial debut. They always say Hope Floats, and that's not true. His directorial debut was an HBO movie, a terrific HBO movie called Strapped, which is about the easy accessibility of firearms in inner city. That's a great movie, an underrated TV movie, but they always talk about this one, and it's one of those genteel Southern quirky comedies. I mean, it's not offensive; it's just not memorable.
Yeah, that was my remembrance of it.
And Harry Connick Jr. cast as the love interest. Last Days of Disco, Whit Stillman.
Great movie. I love the Whit Stillman talk trilogy of Metropolitan, Barcelona, and Last Days of Disco. This was, that incredibly that summer had these kind of as like a disco trilogy, because it was this film and 54 and which was butchered by Harvey Weinstein. And there were a couple of...
Do we know that for sure, though? I mean, we know that it was cut a lot by Harvey Weinstein, but was there a director's cut release of that?
Yeah, I have it, and it's actually not bad. It's not great, but there's a lot more Mike Myers in it, and it's I think he's pretty good in it. He's the best thing about it, and it's a shame they cut him out of it.
He's the best thing in this in the version that even got theatrically. Yeah, there is a director's cut. I think it's like 30 minutes longer.
It's quite a bit. Yeah.
Quite a bit longer. Now, it doesn't turn it into a masterpiece, but it turns it into an actual movie with a beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good assessment.
But back to Last Days of Disco, like I said, great movie. Kate Beckinsale. This showed what she could have. She could have been a great actress. Unfortunately, she married the wrong guy and did all those underworld movies, which is, I mean, it's fine. I mean, she seems to like that, but I mean, if you look at this, you look at her in Aviator. I mean, she had the stuff to be a real glamour movie star.
Snow Angels
Chloe
too,
Sevigny.
with David Gordon Green. I think it's great. But anyway, go on.
Right.
Sorry.
Chloe Sevigny, she's terrific in it. Chris Eigman is a great actor, great delivery of dialogue, and like I said, it's a real talk, and that has probably, after Saturday Night Fever, probably the best disco soundtrack. If you buy the soundtrack of The Last Days of Disco, you pretty much have all you need for a disco compilation at a party. Is that soundtrack? It's pretty amazing.
I wonder how he was able to get the rights to all that stuff on his limited budget.
That was, I think, most of the money went to that. And at that time, you could make, if you're an indie movie and you had the concept, I mean, that was part of that was part of the publicity, was this amazing soundtrack. And so the studio, I believe it was Polygram, I think, did it, or one of those. And so they really, they're like, no, we're going to make this like a big soundtrack, because, in the 90s, I mean, you had this whole thing open up where even the indie films soundtracks was like a little mini cottage industry with be it Pulp Fiction or Trainspotting, so disco was one of those.
Next weekend, June 5th, Mr. Jealousy, which was Noah Baumbach's second film as a writer-director.
Terrific movie. Yep. I just bought that Blu-ray. I found it on cheap on Hamilton Books for like $6. Terrific movie. Eric Stoltz, who's Noah Baumbach's muse, one of his muse. Annabella Shore, terrific Annabella Shore, underrated actress. And it's not as good as his first film, which is Kicking and Screaming, which I love. But it's not a sophomore slump movie. It's a good movie. It's basically a guy who thinks his girlfriend is having an affair, and so he joins. They broke up, and so he joins I think it's a creative writing class of her what he thinks is her new boyfriend, and they become friends. So it's kind of this weird little triangle that goes on. So it's a very early Noah Baumbach film, but it's very, very good.
Okay. Next up, A Perfect Murder, Michael Douglas. I enjoyed it. It's formulaic.
Yeah. Right.
But the thing that I enjoyed about it was Michael Douglas fully embracing his sleaze. I think he's so sleazy confident in this movie. I love watching him in it.
Yeah. Well, this is kind of in line with, this goes on that list alongside Gordon Gekko and the character from Fatal Attraction, even the character from
Basic Instinct is kind of
in the game. These kind of no one portrays wealth probably better than Michael Douglas in this period. And Paltrow is very much in the Grace Kelly mold of this type of story.
Isn't this a remake of a
Dial In for Murder?
Dial In for Murder, right?
The one who sticks out, who they really needed to go for that third movie star, is the boyfriend, is Viggo Mortensen, that he's so kind of he's a little too gritty for this story. Probably they should have gone for another major movie star and done a true movie star for that role too. But he's a little too punk rock for the type of movie that is. But I mean, it has. Who directed that? I can't even remember though. Do you know?
Oh, I can see his face.
But this was part of Paltrow's. She had a kind of her lead up to Shakespeare in Love at the end of the year because she had just done the movie.
Andrew Davis, fugitive director.
Oh, Andrew Davis.
Yeah,
Okay.
I forgot
So
about
it was a return to form.
It's better than Steel Big, Steel Little.
Right, and then Chain Reaction. So
That's another poster.
But she had a couple of movies.
Okay.
She did Hush a couple of months earlier with Jessica Lange, and then she does this, and then she does Shakespeare in Love.
And as I was watching it, I was like, one day I'm going to be able to buy a candle that smells like her vagina. I mean, I knew it back then when I was watching A Perfect Murder. Also on that day, The Truman Show, the biggest critical hit that we've discussed so far, certainly.
Mm-hmm.
Great movie. 4K just came out.
Yep,
it's probably better now than it was then. Then it was, it was a little even far-fetched for some, even though you saw.
Wasn't Ed TV, or was that the year before?
That was was it the same year?
That's the following year.
No,
it was the following year.
Okay.
Okay.
But now it's more, like I said, it rings more accurate now than it did then. Great film. Great. Well, Peter Weir. Peter Weir is just one of those great one of those unsung great filmmakers.
Yeah.
But yeah, Truman. The only thing, my only complaint at the time, and I still complain, even though I'm now a huge fan of hers, I don't like Laura Linney in that movie. I think she's one note. And I know she's supposed to be one note because of that character, and I get that. But she's just...
She plays a one-note role with that one note. For a while there, she was a very shrill actress, like in that and in Primal Fear. She didn't have any shading to her performances. Mystic River, another bad Laura Linney. But then she did a movie called P.S. that I saw, and I was like, okay, that's the great Laura Linney. And then I've been a fan since then. But in this period, I was not a Laura Linney fan. Can't Hardly Wait, June 12th.
John Hughes knockoff, and not a very good one. It has a couple of moments. I have a soft spot for Charlie Korsmo, the main kid. Thought he's a good actor, but he purposely left the business. But he's a good actor. He was in Dick Tracy and a couple other movies. And then the girl who gets stuck in the bathroom. She was on 6 Feet Under. She was also really good. But that's about it. What hasn't aged well in that movie, they use a gay slur in that movie quite a few times for comic effect. And I remember even then when I saw the movie, it's like, that just seems a little unnecessary.
Yeah.
But I know for the kids, I know the young people of 1988. I know that's a touchstone movie, but for them. But like I said, the John Hughes movies did that stuff far, far better.
Cousin Bet, Jessica Lange and Elizabeth Shue also came out that day. Do we have anything to say about that?
I never saw it, actually.
Surprisingly good. It's a kind of one of it's like a saucy period.
Costume drama. Yeah.
Really, really good. Jessica Lange is kind of made for that type of story, and Elizabeth Shue surprisingly fits into that period piece quite well. It's a good movie.
Dirty Work. Norm Macdonald, Don Rickles, Artie Lang.
Yep.
Awful
I was
movie.
going to say, I think it has its moments. It's not great, but I laughed a couple of times, and it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. But
Norm Macdonald might be one of those guys, might have been one of those guys, which obviously he probably was, judging from the output. But one of those, because I find him funny. I always did.
I do too, and he's funny in this, I think.
But he's funny in a really slow burn kind of way.
Yeah.
And maybe he's somebody that you can't bring that out in a movie.
Yeah.
He's kind of like John Lovitz in movies. Like John Lovitz in League of Their Own or Happiness, he's hilarious in like 10-15 minute chunk.
Yeah, but with Norm Macdonald, it takes 10-15 minutes to get him.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. John Lovitz is, he'll pop off the zinger, but Norm Macdonald isn't like one of those kind of comedians.
Well, Dirty Work has a cult following to the point where I know they were getting ready to do a sequel when Norm passed away, because Bob Saget had said they were ready to just go before cameras. Like the script was
I
ready.
do love watching the outtakes with Rickles.
Yeah.
And then when Rickles starts to talk to the food in Artie Lang's stomach.
Yeah. Hello in there, Baskin
okay.
Robbins.
Also on that day, do we want to say anything about Dong? I think I've said enough about Dong. High Art, The Land Girls, Passion in the Desert. Anything? High Art. Is that the Ali Sheedy lesbianism movie?
Got very good reviews. I just didn't see it.
That's a great movie. If they'd had a little more money and tried a little harder, maybe if they'd released it in the fall, she probably would have gotten an Oscar nomination. She's that good. Patricia Clarkson is great in that movie, and Rhoda Mitchell. That's Lisa Cholodenko, and it's a very smart film about the art world and type of personality that it attracts. And Ali Sheedy is great. I mean, she got the Indie Spirit Award, deservedly so, and it should have garnered her more work. I don't know what happened, but High Art's an amazing movie.
The biggest, highest profile release that day, if only because it concerned another element of lesbianism, was 6 Days, 7 Nights.
Right, and that was all off-screen because it's not in the movie. And hey, Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford, he's a good comic actor.
Yeah.
We do more
comedy.
I don't know if he just doesn't take them or they don't offer.
Man, I just rewatched. It's a movie I love. It's like The Intern in that it's like a surface kind of movie that I just adore, not because of any depth, but just the joy of actually just watching it. Is Morning Glory, and Harrison Ford is so funny in Morning Glory.
It's him, and is that Maggie Gyllenhaal? That's Maggie Gyllenhaal, right? That's the
No, it's Diane Keaton and Rachel McAdams, and
Oh, McAdams. Okay, it's McAdams. Yeah, and Diane Keaton. Yeah, no, it's great in that. Well, and then Working Girl. He's working in Working Girl, the Mike Nichols film. And so here he's good. I even like the sorely forgotten, but he's really good in Hollywood Homicide. That came out. He's real good in that, and that's a fun kind of berserk comedy. But,
it's not a good movie, but there is a line in Hollywood Homicide that Harrison Ford says that I just cracks me up. It's when they're going in and all the women. He's what's his name? Hartnett. He's teaching the yoga class and all of these hot women in skimpy tights and everything, and Hartnett's like selling his service to Harrison Ford because Harrison Ford's looking around saying, "What the hell is this?" And he said, "I help these women. It's really deep." And Harrison Ford's like, "And shallow." Yeah, he's a funny actor. But 6 Days, 7 Nights. It's fine. Yeah, he's the best part of the movie, and it's a throwback it feels like a throwback movie, and Anne Heche, she kind of typifies that girl from those kinds of movies from decades ago. You know, yeah.
Carol Lombard.
Yes.
What Kate Capshaw does in Temple of Doom.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
And so it's not them that's the problem. The problem is it's just it's a little too formulaic, and so they just had a little more maybe twist to the formula. It might have taken off a little more. But doesn't work that way.
Okay, the next weekend. Do we have anything to say about Dream for an Insomniac Have Plenty or Henry Fool?
Well, Henry Fool was that got a lot of press because that was hyped as Hal Hartley's breakout movie.
Mm-hmm.
Hal Hartley had been on the fringes of indie movies and a lot of indie directors, use him as say he's inspired them that they could do their movie. Like Kevin Smith paid a lot of tribute to Hal Hartley, and so this was going to be his big breakthrough movie. And like the critics even were really high on it. I saw it. I don't get it.
I wonder when bad filmmakers say, "You gave me the confidence that I could do it myself," if they still take that as a form of flattery.
I think Hal Hartley.
Really? I'm responsible for you.
Apparently, Hal Hartley is like the reason he still works. He still makes. And I was once at a dinner party and I asked another critic, "What's the thing with Hal Hartley? I don't get it." And I go, "Is it Europe?" And they're like, "Yes, he's like, it's kind of like Cimino in Italy. They take care of him in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. So Hal Hartley can still get his movies made. But I didn't think it was that good a movie."
Mulan. Where does Mulan fit in the pantheon of modern day Disney animated?
It's beautifully drawn, obviously. The story is good. It's, but it's coming in the wake of Pocahontas, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Hercules. Those are great. Those movies have great.
Hercules.
And then, but Mulan kind of is. It's kind of odd to say, but it's almost kind of slight compared to.
Yeah, it's not a musical, is it? Was it a musical? It wasn't, was it?
It's not a flat out, but it does have some songs. It does have a couple of songs in there, but it's more serious, like Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a couple of those late '90s Disney movies. They're really good, but they're not as indelible as some of those early '90s ones. Because I think the following summer is Tarzan.
Yeah.
With Phil Collins.
The Oscar-winning Tarzan.
You'll be in my heart, Aaron. Just know that. Also on that day, the X-Files Fight the Future. Now that's the first X-Files feature film, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
It's good. I was. It's one of it. What was interesting about it is that because I was not a X-Files devotee. I'd seen an episode here and there or whatever. So if you went to the movie, having not been a follower of the show, the movie worked on its own. It had a good relationship. It had a good little mystery, and so it had a lot of atmosphere and suspense. So the movie worked on its own terms. But I'm told that if you were a ride or die X-Files fan, the movie just was like amazing to you. But so it worked both ways.
Oh yeah, there were people that were extremely geekish about the show, and so obviously it translated into the movie. Here's a little known fact. Adam and I have been to one of the filming locations of X-Files Fight the Future.
Yes, we did. That's right.
It's a bar. It's a bar scene.
Yep, we sure did.
Our mutual friend Rick went with us, and Rick is a huge X-Files fanatic, and so he wanted to sit in the same seat at the bar that David Duchovny sat in, and damn it, we made that happen.
I will say
Hang on, I'm not done. The other thing that's interesting about that bar is there's a little like wooded paneling room in there and they told us that James Cameron shot a pickup shot for Titanic in that little room of the captain.
I would just say that because of that movie, I did watch the new season that started in '88. I mean, I didn't watch the whole season, but I did watch it, for a few weeks, and it had one of the best episodes of television I ever saw. I forget the name of the episode, but it's the episode where each segment of this episode, each 15-minute block, was one take. It's an amazing episode.
Okay. June 26, Buffalo 66.
Yes. Made my top 10 list that year. It's an amazing film. Probably the best directorial debut of that year. I love that movie. I mean,
Vincent Gallo, right?
Yeah, Vincent Gallo. Obviously, we can, go back and forth about what we think of Vincent Gallo, his political views or any of his views, really. But I kind of blocked that out. If you just judge this movie on its own, it's an amazing movie. He's terrific in it. He has the raw rhythms of early De Niro. He looks like one critic described him, and it's a great descriptor, as Bruce Springsteen's psychotic cousin. It's kind of his look. And this is the Christina Ricci performance that's just amazing. And then it has this, this kind of recall some of those whacked out family dramas by Cassavetes, where you got Gazzara and Angelica Houston as, parents from hell. And the indie world and the Sundance world, we have a ton of these dysfunctional family comedy dramas, and they're a dime a dozen. But this one sticks out. This one has, because Gallo's visual style is so arresting. This is the one that separates itself from the pack. Great use of his score is terrific. Great use of prog music, King Crimson and Yes, and some other songs are on there. Stan Getz is on the soundtrack, and a great cast of just weird indie stalwarts. I mean, Jan Michael Vincent, Mickey Rourke, Kevin Corrigan. It's just kind of this cracked fairy tale. It kind of has a little bit of a. It's the best movie Jim Jarmusch never made, basically.
And Adam, what do you think of it?
I must say I never saw it. I never did. So.
Did you see Dr. Dolittle, Adam?
Yeah, I didn't think much of it. Of course, maybe I'm not the intended audience, but I didn't get a lot of enjoyment out of that.
I saw that advanced screening. It's funny. I mean, I haven't seen it then, but I did laugh at that one. I did not see the sequel or the Robert Downey reboot, but I did laughing at the first one.
Smoke Signals, did you like that one, Adam or Aaron?
I didn't see Smoke Signals either. So.
I did. Terrific. I mean, there's a nice little subgenre of these kind of indie Native American movies. Is that movie, Powwow Highway, War Party is another movie. But Smoke Signals is really has the first film of note of Adam Beach, who's a good actor. But no, it has a very wry sense of humor. It's kind of, at the time, it was being compared to She's Gotta Have It, the Spike Lee film.
Yeah.
First film. And it should have started a little movement, but it didn't. But it is a really good, unlike I was talking about earlier, Dancer Texas Population 81. This is also kind of one of those small town slice of life movies, but it has so much more vitality in it.
Yeah. Okay. Also on that day, a big turning point for Steven Soderbergh, George Clooney, and Jennifer Lopez in their careers. Out of Sight.
Yes.
I did like this.
Yep. Out of Sight.
Finally, a movie we found this summer that is worth talking about.
Yes.
No, that's not true. There's several, but yeah, Out of Sight is a really great poppy movie.
Yes. Yeah. So advanced screening. Everyone just kind of was blown away by it. I remember at the time, at the screening I saw, most people liked it, but I do remember people in the lobby, they were talking about, okay, how did that timeline work out? Because it has this very pretzel timeline of the flashbacks, and you're trying to get the chronology in order. But if you pay attention, it's pretty easy to to follow, but it is good. I will say this. I mean, I know people love Out of Sight, and I love Out of Sight too. I will say this though. I don't subscribe to the belief that this or Jackie Brown is the best Elmore Leonard adaptation. I think they're terrific adaptation of Elmore Leonard. But I stand by the one that truly gets the sweaty desperation of Elmore Leonard's writing is still 52 Pickup.
Burt Reynolds' Heat. Oh, God, I got that totally wrong.
I just saw 52 Pickup for the first time, actually, about a week ago. It's new on Blu-ray, and I enjoyed it.
John Glover, talk about slimy.
Yeah, he was,
John Glover in that movie. Jeez.
I quote a couple of his lines to this day. When Roy Scheider says, "I'm going to give you my Jag," and he's like, "Ooh, that's mighty white of you, sport. Mighty white of you," which I think is a great line. And then the other great line he has is when he shows him the snuff film. He's like, "I wish we had some popcorn or lemonade, but we're kind of a low budget production." John Glover is he's like the villain of the year. I mean, he's just one of the great villains in that movie.
Yeah, and I never thought I'd see Anne Margaret hooked on H in a movie. I mean, I didn't think that would be
That's true.
Possible.
Good point.
Anyway, so Out of Sight, one of the great sleeper hits of that summer, one of the great stories that came out of that cinematic summer. Mm-hmm. Good movie, and it feels like a turning point, as I said. Like Soderbergh hits his kind of mainstream stride, and they finally figure out how to make George Clooney a movie star. I mean, I say finally, but it didn't take that long. But it was a rocky start. So, but Out of Sight just got it just right. The Steve McQueen with kind of like this sarcastic, humor to him.
Yeah, with a little edge, and he kind of and he told Clooney, okay, I think one of the things he told Clooney is that I don't want you to bob your head anymore.
Right.
You're not going to move your head anymore.
I can always tell where an actor's stress is. If they're really good, they don't really have any stress points. But with Kiefer Sutherland, it used to be bobbing his head forward. With George Clooney, it's bobbing it side by side anytime he'd walk. There's some people it's in the mouth. Their stress, the mouth gets all tense and stuff. Yeah, so that's a good point. All right. Good mouth acting is what I'm saying. Armageddon is July 1st. I do remember Disney sending all the theater exhibition people to screen 30 minutes of Armageddon, like earlier in the year. And I was like, holy shit, this movie's going to be fantastic. Because that's what he makes. Michael Bay makes sizzle reels into 2.5-hour movies.
Yeah, that's true.
And what we saw was an actual sizzle reel of the sizzle reel. So
yeah.
How could you not think that movie's going to be the most incredible thing ever?
And so, unlike going back to Deep Impact, where that movie just took itself so seriously and was so somber, so now we get this film, which clearly doesn't take anything seriously, and it goes off the rails the other way because it's just so berserk. I mean, it's like it's a movie that does not breathe, and so you just kind of like overwhelmed. The one element in the film, the one person who manages to carve out a character, a personality, a calmness is Billy Bob Thornton as the head of NASA. He manages to amazingly carve out like some kind of personality and a character in that with his performance, and you're kind of relieved every time he has his like little 2-minute bits in there. So yeah, I just like the other thing, I'm not big on Deep Impact. I'm not big on this film, but I do know people. It's Jets versus Sharks. Which asteroid movie do you prefer? And I kind of was astonished that these are not two movies worth fighting over.
Right.
No,
I mean, and of course.
And who among us did not get sick to death of I don't want to miss a thing?
One of the worst things. It's a double-edged sword, catch-22 for rock bands, because everyone wants a number one single. That's the goal. You want to have a number one single, and so here Aerosmith finally got their number one single with this song, and to the point, from this point on, in every concert, they have to perform this song.
Well, they probably made more money from that one song than anything in their entire career.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure they're thankful for that.
But
I'm sure they don't regret it.
It's an awful song. It's an awful song.
Come on, sing a little bit, Aaron.
Let's not forget that this film, along with The Rock.
That's a bad song too.
Well, infamously got the Criterion treatment.
Yeah. But the commentary's worth it on the Criterion.
Yeah.
Ben Affleck, bad talking Bay in the movie itself.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
It's true. And does anybody remember Lawrence Tierney being in a deleted scene, being he's Bruce Willis's father? It's on the Criterion.
That's good casting, actually.
Yeah.
That's a good choice to play Bruce Willis's father.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, July 10th came a documentary. If you see this clip of Quentin Tarantino on probably Colbert, he's asked, what documentary would you recommend to people in the video store? And he said this one, Hands on a Hard Body. It's a documentary about this, this car lot, and the contest is you got to keep your hands on this truck, and the person that's left at the end of 24 hours or whatever with his hand still on the truck wins the truck. Yeah. Also notable because this was going to be Robert Altman's last film, yes, and he died while developing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the fun story on that, or the backstory on that, it opened in, but it started off in Austin, and it played there like a year before it caught on. I remember because it was the summer of '99 is when it started getting wide distribution. But it was it had played in Austin for a year. And so, cause I remember I started hearing about it in the summer of '99 to the point me and my friends, we actually drove to Austin to go see it. And like I said, it is a terrific doc. I think Tarantino's a little hyperbolic as the best doc ever, but it is a terrific doc. And the material is ideal for the Altman treatment. And it's not 24 hours. It's actually who could be there the longest. So, I mean, I think it is a good doc. But yeah, it's very colorful. So yeah.
Okay. Also on that day, Lethal Weapon 4, which I felt. Oh God, I can tell I felt differently than Aaron already. Which I thought was better than it had any reason to be, and an improvement over the third.
I just think it's too busy. I just think it's way too busy. Too many characters, and frankly, it should have ended with the third. In that the arc of Lethal Weapon is the Mel Gibson rich character. The first one is suicidal. The second one he's not suicidal, but now he trying to find romance basically, and trying to find his own way again. And they kill his girlfriend, and so that doesn't work. And by the third one, he does meet someone that he's going to settle down and start a family with. That's how the third one ends, and that's the arc of the character. That's his complete redemption. So this fourth one feels like there's nothing to it. There's no more development of either character in this one anymore. It's just now it's become like television. It's just like the next season, and it just doesn't nothing action wise. I mean, I don't remember any of the action scenes. I can remember even 3, which is flawed, which is not great. I can remember at least a couple of those action sequences. I don't remember anything from Lethal Weapon 4.
Oh, I sure do. That freeway scene is pretty good.
Yeah. I agree. It's a step up from 3. I totally agree. 3 was probably my least favorite of the entire series. So.
Mine too. But this one's funny. It's charming.
Mm-hmm.
It has touching moments in it. I mean, I thought it was really well executed, especially for a fourth of anything.
Yeah. Well, now we got the fifth one supposedly.
Maybe. I mean, they've talked about it, but they never seem to be working on it.
That's right.
Okay. Love Letter, Madeline, Small Soldiers.
Madeline, it's good. It's a terrific family film based on the book. It's really, really good. A children's book classic. No, Madeline's really good. Small Soldiers. It has its moment. Now,
which one of that? It's the guy that did Wolfman. Joe Dante.
No, it's Joe Dante. It's now. So this is a weird movie in that there are people there.
Dante did that.
Yeah, he did.
I guess he did. Yeah.
His DreamWorks production, one of their early.
Who was the Wolfman guy? The other Spielberg protege.
Joe Johnston.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking. Okay.
But they're the cult of Joe Dante out there and they swear.
I love him.
I love it, but they swear by Small Soldiers as a unsung masterpiece. The much revered critic Jonathan Rosenbaum. He proclaimed Small Soldiers a better war movie than another war movie that we're going to get to probably in about 2 weeks. So there's that. Like I said, it is good. The special effects are terrific, and the best thing in it is Tommy Lee Jones.
Tommy Lee Jones is in Small Soldiers. Obviously, I don't remember. I remember watching this movie. I screened it.
Yeah, it's Phil Hartman's last movie too.
Yeah, he's the voice of the military ship.
Okay, maybe I should check this out again. Okay, Pi came out that day.
Oh, great movie.
Yeah, that is.
Wouldn't that have been better off being released on March 14th?
Great.
Thank you. I love a good math joke.
That was good.
They just had a one night only 25th anniversary screening. In certain markets.
They've done a restoration. He's been working on that for a while, 4K restoration. Yeah.
So I'm waiting for the 4K to come out. I love Pi. Great score. It's a great paranoid thriller, and it's probably one of the best calling card movies. I think the following year we got Following by Christopher Nolan, which is an interesting film, and it's clearly a calling card movie, but it's not as good as Pi. Pi is just, Pi is just it's literally one of those early 70s paranoia thrillers. Just terrific, and you could tell he was just from that he was going to be a major filmmaker.
Now, which one do you prefer, Pi or that Jennifer Aniston movie Cake? Which one is preferable to you? Okay.
I will say whatever. The last movie on that list for that day was well reviewed by Siskel and Ebert, and I remember Wood probably had not taken notice of it had they not mentioned it and spoke glowingly of it, and I'm quite a fan of that one as well. It's one of those typical things they were doing around that time about a teen, her carefree sex, drugs, all that type stuff, and it takes place in the early 80s before fears of AIDS and all that, and Frederick Forrest is in that. So I just wanted to give a shout out to this movie. Didn't make a lot of money, but whatever. It was a really good indie film.
Yeah, that is good. Compare that to earlier stuff from that summer. Can't Hardly Wait, Opposite of Sex.
Yes.
It's much. It's more in the vein of Welcome to the Dollhouse. A couple years earlier.
Yes, totally agree. It's a good movie. So.
Also in the vein of Welcome to the Dollhouse, there's Something About Mary. July 15th, another big hit from that summer.
I saw it twice.
Is it the best Farrelly Brothers?
No. It's not. It's obviously the most popular Farrelly Brothers.
I don't know. Dumb and Dumber is pretty up there.
Well, financially, I think it's their biggest hit. But I would say Dumb and Dumber and Kingpin are better, and also I stand by the Three Stooges movie they did. I think
that's good Lord!
That's a terrific movie.
Said no one ever.
That's actually really, really good. And then
you have just made the history books, my friend. You're literally the only person on this planet who ever made that statement.
No, it got a couple of really stellar reviews. I wasn't a fan of Shallow Hal. The one I did like, it's not perfect, but I did like the Twins movie, Stuck on You. There's some really good stuff in it.
I really like Stuck on You.
I do too. That's fine.
Because I feel that Stuck on You was the most emotional movie that they've made. I mean, it's funny, but there's also great kind of pathos in that movie.
Yeah.
And I think I love Fever Pitch. Fever Pitch is terrific. The Red Sox.
I like There's Something About Mary. I'll go to bat.
I do
for
too.
It.
Yeah.
I think it's really funny. It holds up well to repeat viewings. I've watched it here in the last year, and I still laugh. And I don't know. I enjoy it. So.
I remember there was talk there for like 5 minutes, like of Cameron Diaz getting the Best Actress nomination. I believe she won the New York Film Critics Circle, which I think surprised a lot of people.
Did that movie win the hair and makeup Oscar?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good.
July 17th, The Mask of Zorro. Which I don't remember much about this movie. I remember seeing it and saying, well, no more Zorro for a while.
Yeah, it's pretty forgettable.
But it was a hit, made $100 million, and the twist being is that
Catherine Zeta-Jones.
No, the twist being that Anthony Hopkins is actually Zorro.
Right.
Passing the torch, as it were, to Banderas. And
well, Zeta-Jones, that was a big time. So Entrapment was before this one, right?
No, Entrapment's a year later.
Okay.
So she has this film, then Entrapment, and then Traffic is in 2000. And I believe she got this film because I believe Spielberg, he watched a Titanic miniseries that she was in, and she was like a highlight in. I liked Master Zorro at the time. I remember seeing it and thought it was obviously a throwback to that stuff. It was, I believe it was Martin Campbell, who was a good director. His Casino Royale is a masterpiece. But
they're trying to convince him to do. Well, fans are starting to advocate for him doing the next Bond. Go back to Martin Campbell.
I would not object. I mean, like I said, Casino Royale is probably should be a gold standard in doing Bond movies.
Yep.
Polish Wedding, Under Heaven, and The Thief. Anything?
Not from me.
I know
Thank
Polish
you.
Wedding.
Thank you, Adam.
I know Polish Wedding got some critical notices, but I skipped that one.
Freeway, a movie we all liked. Freeway 2. Any thoughts on Confessions of a Trick Baby?
Didn't see the second one. Loved the first.
Wow,
one.
what a subtitle. Confessions of a Trick Baby.
It has its own following. I believe Vinegar Syndrome just put out the 4K.
They did.
Yeah.
I think Vincent Gallo is in it, if I'm not mistaken, in a supporting role. And it's Natasha Lyonne playing the title.
Yeah. Jim Jones had a following too. I mean, just never don't forget that.
This is Natasha Lyonne. Well, this is her breakout summer because it's this film and later one, Slums of Beverly Hills.
Oof, yeah, that is something to break out from. July 22nd. I don't know the theatrical release this movie had before it premiered on Showtime, but I'm assuming this is Adrian Lyne's Lolita.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yes. It was the Oscar qualifying week.
Yeah.
New York, LA.
Yeah, it actually debuted in '97, I think, on Showtime, because it was filmed near where I live in the summer of '96.
God, everything filmed near where you live, Adam.
At that time, it was a hotbed of activity. It really was. Shallow Hal filmed here as well.
Prince of Egypt. That was right down the street. The Prince of Egypt. Just every movie we talk about from now on, I want you to throw that in. That was filmed right down from my house.
It was filmed in '97, but it was held up.
That's right.
Because of obviously the content. So then Showtime bought it. They're like, we're going to show it, but and then Showtime like, but we're going to show it in theaters for a week, 2 weeks.
Good on them.
And
I got to tell you, I love Adrian Lyne's Lolita.
I do too.
And I personally feel it's a far superior version to Kubrick's.
Without a doubt, yes.
Well, it goes in more depth obviously, than the Kubrick was able to. Jeremy Irons is better at that role.
It's not just about that. I mean, the Kubrick thing, just tonally, Adrian Lynes is more consistent.
And I believe I don't think it's available. I believe Imprint in Australia has the Blu-ray of that. So if you're interested, and it's a Regan-free Blu-ray. So
while Morricone's score in Bulworth is ridiculous, Lolita, I feel, is one of his best scores. I'll replay the Morricone score from this.
Right. And Melanie Griffith is actually, I mean, once again, obviously not apples to apples, but Melanie Griffith is better for that role than Shelley Winters. Melanie Griffith is very good in it.
I mean, Shelley Winters, my mind kind of goes to her when she knew how to carve an annoying character. It's the Towering Inferno performance, just like 30 years earlier, 20 years earlier.
But no, it's a good movie. What I would like now, if they were to ever do another Lolita, I want we got these two versions. We got Kubrick, we got Adrian Lyne. Okay, so we have I would love to see the female directed version of Lolita and see how that kind of changes the perspective and just how that story would play out. The Greta Gerwig Lolita. I think that'd be fascinating. And I think that's the only way you could do a Lolita now is to get a female director. Like I want a female director saying, I want to do Lolita. I think that'd be the only way you could get it greenlit.
Maybe. July 24th, the big one that we need to talk about.
Yep.
Jane Austen's Mafia.
They took off the Jane Austen by the time the movie came out.
Oh, did they really?
Yep. When the movie finally came out in theaters, it was called Mafia with an exclamation point.
For
the same reason they took off the 3 on The Madness of King George. Don't want to confuse people or put crocodile in quotation marks.
Oh, people that think they're seeing Sense and Sensibility or something.
Right. I don't know. So, I mean, you gotta love the skittishness of movie producers.
Yeah.
It's just
Naked Gun 33 1/3. People will think they're buying a record. How will they possibly know they're seeing a movie?
What do we think about Mafia? I was gonna say.
The problem with this movie is that it literally comes out a week after Something About Mary, and so there's just no. If you want to go see a comedy, you weren't going to go see that. You were going to go see Something About Mary.
Yeah. And Lloyd Bridges passed away. He's in it and passed away right before it came out. Yeah, so I think it's very funny, to be quite honest.
Really?
I do. I think it's very funny. I have it on Blu-ray, and I ran it for my son. He thought it was funny too. He's seen enough of the movies that it's parodying that I mean, obviously there's some jokes that fall flat, but there are a lot of them that are very, very funny. There's one that riffs on the scene where Marlon Brando is eating the orange in The Godfather, and basically the character who's eating an orange in this film has been burned horribly, and so everybody gets sick when they look at him. They're like vomiting because the person, it's basically the guy survives the car bomb like they had in Casino, but he's horribly burned, and so everybody that walks past him, they're watching him eating an orange, and everybody's vomiting at the sight of his burns on his. I thought it was funny. I don't know.
I'll have to watch it. I haven't watched it. It wasn't even good enough to be considered Jay Moore's best movie. That would be Jerry Maguire. All right.
That's 200 cigarettes.
Yeah.
Saving Private Ryan.
Yep. I think I saw this 3 times in theaters. Yep.
Once was enough for me.
It's the best film of that year. It's top.
You don't think Shakespeare in Love was the best movie that year?
They made my top 10. That is a great movie. It's probably top 3 Spielberg. It's just amazing. It's an amazing film. It's an amazing war movie, like Full Metal Jacket. And it's more than the opening. The whole movie is just a tense, film. It's a great action. It astonishes me whenever outlets put out their, the best action movies of all time or the best action movie of the last 30 years. This film is never on the list. This is an action movie. It tells its story through action. What is amazing about the movie is that, 9 times out of 10 war movies, what's the subtext of a war movie? War is hell, and we must do whatever we can to avoid war. And that's a noble sentiment, and we all probably can agree with that. What makes Saving Private Ryan so singular in a great movie is that it's ambivalent. Because this film, it's just as horrific. It shows war as horrific as any other war movie, Platoon or Full Metal Jacket or Apocalypse Now, whatever. So it does show the insanity of war. But this movie dares to be ambivalent and say that there are rare occasions when war is necessity, and it needs to be. There's not an anti-war movie.
Well, I think people in general feel that way about World War II, though.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And the same thing could be said about Civil War. So it does not have the anti-war trope.
Right. If it were about Vietnam, it would be odd if it would avoid. But and then again too, I think war movies and action movies are different.
Yeah, they are.
Right. And I think they are different genres.
And the thing is, but I mean, the problem with this film, because the other war movie that came out, the other big film that came out this year was The Thin Red Line, and I love Terrence Malick, but Terrence Malick's a little soft-headed in The Thin Red Line. he's literally making an anti-war movie about World War II, saying how war is just about representing man's nature to destroy it. And it's like, I mean, yes, that is an interesting sentiment. The problem is World War II. In World War II, Hitler was the violation of humanity.
Yeah, but the thing about Malick's, he's telling the story from the perspective of a beetle on a blade of grass. Now that beetle probably thought World War II was a bad thing.
I don't. But as a human being, I don't care about the beetle. I really don't care about the beetle.
Yeah.
I really don't care. I really don't care.
Now, Thin Red Line does have one of the greatest pieces of music ever composed for a sequence, which is that Hans Zimmer Journey to the Hill or whatever it is that they've replayed to death in trailers ever since. And Thin Red Line does have astonishing stuff. It could not be more different than Saving Private Ryan, obviously.
Right.
And Private Ryan, it's not just that. It's not just that opening scene. You're right. I mean that closing battle is every bit as ambitious, and then there's heartbreak in between. That really gets to me. I mean, it's an extraordinary accomplishment, but it's not like a beginning to end masterpiece in my mind.
No,
I think.
Oh, go ahead.
Whatever flaws, I'll just say this real quick. Whatever flaws it has, and I will acknowledge there's a couple of things that clank in that movie. Particularly, I don't like the bookends. I really don't like the bookends of the movie. But to me, that seems so insignificant to what the movie does.
Accomplishes, yeah. I mean, yeah.
And I will say that I saw it on its 20th anniversary. They showed it for Memorial Day in some theaters around the country in 2018. I went and rewatched it, and I will say some of the things that kind of clank when you watch it on TV, they don't bother me in the theatrical setting, particularly the performance of Edward Burns.
Mm-hmm.
When I see it on TV, it just kind of sticks out. It's a little too modern ish, but in a theatrical setting, Edward Burns, I don't know what it is, but his performance kind of blends in with the rest of the ensemble, and it doesn't. It's not as.
Well, I will say too, and it's a big complaint about Edward Burns in the movie. Actually, is that he feels too modern.
Yeah,
but the movie itself, and it's the reason why it doesn't sermonize, it's done as a nostalgia piece. I mean, it's approached as if it happened back then, like it's being filmed back then. Even the look of it being copied on the Time Life coverage of D-Day and that kind of stuff. It's not looking back ironically on these events.
No. Who's the actor? The one that plays the cowardly corporal.
Jeremy Davies.
Jeremy Davies.
The best Charles Manson, by the way. I don't care what anybody says.
He's good.
But that performance, Hanks deservedly got a nomination, but Jeremy Davies also deserved a nomination for that performance as Upham. He's astonishing.
Yeah.
Well,
okay. It's a great movie, right, Adam? I mean,
I think there's some great things about it. I just, William Goldman had this piece years ago where he broke down what was wrong with from a storytelling standpoint, what was wrong with it, and I could not agree with him more. I think he nailed it. There's just some real problems with some cliched goings on. I don't want to get, slow the show down. We need to keep moving, but and then those bookends, like you said. That's nonsensical. It makes no sense at all because at the beginning of the film, you see Tom Hanks, and you assume that the old man is Tom Hanks, and then at the end of the movie, you find out it's Private Ryan. Well, how could he have witnessed what we saw in the first 30 minutes of the film because he wasn't even there? I mean, so there's that.
That is such a minor.
It is.
Thing.
It is.
It's
minor.
That is a minor quibble,
but it's not the only one.
I remember that William Goldman piece. It was in premiere, and William Goldman, other than All the President's Men, is one of the most overrated screenwriters in movie history. And all of those premiere pieces that he wrote were just they read like sour grape writing.
I know that is bad form. For a working screenwriter to talk shit on.
He shouldn't have. He shouldn't have. But I think a lot of his points were he pretty much. I was thinking the same thing.
And isn't he the one that said nobody knows anything? Doesn't that include him?
That's the guy. Yeah.
I can break down all the flaws in his Butch Cassidy script, which Butch and Sundance script, but no one ever bothered to take that apart.
My point about Saving Private Ryan, beyond the William Goldman.
Yeah.
Is that, and kind of echoing what Aaron said about it doesn't matter, the weak points of the movie. What makes that movie a classic war film is its depiction of war.
That's
the act of war.
I can't argue with that.
Everything else I can dismiss. Mm-hmm. But even if you just keep in the war scenes, you still almost have a feature-length movie.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's so much in there that makes it stand out as one of the best war movies ever made.
And we can even, I'll go even this further. Here's another thing that this movie does. Steven Spielberg, this is how great a filmmaker he is. He's actually able to get a fully dramatic, annoying, and I mean that in its truest sense, performance out of Giovanni Ribisi. Of all people. I mean, Giovanni Ribisi is one of the most grating actors out there that still gets work. He's like bad Nicolas Cage grating. And Steven Spielberg is able to...
I broke my leg. What movie did he say that in? It was some traitor movie with Ben Affleck. I broke my leg.
I mean, Steven Spielberg is able to keep him in check in this movie, and he's astonishing. Just the same way he was able to keep Paul Dano in check in The Fabelmans, and Paul Dano was actually able to give an amazing performance. So,
all right. Also notable because it's the only movie that Vin Diesel's been in where he doesn't talk about we're family. He doesn't even mention it once, I don't think.
True.
No.
All right, the next weekend, July 29th, The Negotiator. This one was well liked.
It is. It's a terrific action movie.
It is. I love it.
My only complaint is the red herring of a character. Because he's usually a great actor, but he proclaims at the mouth, foaming at the mouth throughout the whole movie. It's David Morse. He's pretty bad in that movie. But that's not why you go see a movie like The Negotiator. You go see The Negotiator to see two actors do a mano-a-mano film, and it's Jackson and Spacey, and it's the other little supporting roles that are really... Giamatti is terrific. J.T. Walsh. In his second to last role.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, this is clearly... it clearly doesn't have the emotional depth of...
J.T. Walsh, now it's different because people know his name. Maybe because he died, that people know his name, even though they probably would catch on in internet culture. But he's got to be the ultimate that guy, right?
Yeah.
he's one of them. He's a top 5, like him, James Woods, Powers Booth. He's in that.
James
that
Woods
vein.
was a star, though. He.
Yeah. But Powers Booth, Powers Booth never really made it, but you count on him as being a great villain.
No, that guy. Like I've seen that guy in 1,000 movies. What's his name? That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. No, J.T. Walsh, and then, but clearly this film doesn't have like the emotional.
Oh, you thought I said bad guy. I get it. I get it.
Complexity of Dog Day Afternoon.
No, The Negotiator.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But it does play off the kind of the pop resonance of.
Even though they should have added in a sex change operation subplot to The Negotiator, that would have been a proper homage.
For Kevin Spacey's like, I want half. I got an operation on Monday. So there you go.
Okay. The Parrot Trap. That's the Lindsay Lohan thing that they're trying to make a sequel to right now.
That's right, yeah.
I don't know how they're going to do that, but okay. That was actually a big hit. It was a big hit. And I guess, was this the last Myers and Shire film? Was this their last one? I think this was their...
Before they got divorced?
Yeah.
Probably, maybe.
I think this was their last one, and this is the unpopular sentiment that I'll say, but frankly, Nancy Myers was best when she worked with Charles Shire. So, between this film, Follow the Bride, their best film being Irreconcilable Differences.
She really needed a man to keep her in check.
Yeah, but her movies since then have just been. I do know people swear by The Intern, and The Intern is good. But
I love The Intern. Come on, you're not gonna bad talk The Intern.
No,
not on my show.
I don't bad talk the Intern. I guess the one that's awful is It's Complicated. The Meryl Streep one.
Yeah.
That's pretty awful. But no, this is good. It is kind of sad to watch now because, clearly Lindsay Lohan, between this and Mean Girls and a couple other movies at that time, she had major talent.
She had to go through it.
Yeah.
Hopefully she's on the other side of it. She seems to be doing okay.
The Canyons is terrific.
Good Lord.
It's a stunt of a movie. But she's terrific in The Canyons. It's definitely better than those two Nick Cage Schrader movies, Dog Eat Dog and the other one.
July 31st, sorry. Basketball.
Once again, why go see that when Something About Mary is playing next door? And
the interest in this is from the creators of South Park, right?
But they're only in it. They didn't even write it. They didn't write it and direct it. Yeah. In it. And here's the thing. I have never been a ride or die South Park fan. It was never a show that I watched, every week. It was never one of those shows. There are episodes that are funny. I do like the movie Bigger, Longer, and Uncut and Team America, but I find their humor in the end very oppressive. I don't think they're as smart as they're not as clever as they think they are. I really don't. Once you get past the novelty of third graders with potty mouths, 25 years later, okay, I get it. It's just I don't think they have anything fresh to say. But,
I'm just kidding. I've never been a huge South Park guy either.
And what do I know? They just signed a $1 billion deal, so clearly they're doing something right.
I haven't seen their musical. I never saw Book of Mormon, which was hugely received. So, I can't talk about it with much authority. Ever After, talk about a movie with legs that remains beloved. Isn't this the Drew Barrymore Ever After?
Yeah, Cinderella. It's actually pretty good. Angelica Houston is terrific as the evil stepmother character. Because what gives it a little different, what gives it a little edge, is that the stepmother character is given some. She is evil, but she's given some humanity, and as only Angelica Houston can do. And so it raises the emotional stakes a little in obviously a story that we know, but it gives it a fresh spin on the material, and it was one of those things like, oh, okay, we were getting the inkling that Drew Barrymore was like coming into her own, but this is where like, okay, she's actually a movie star, an adult movie star with this film.
Okay. Makes young girls' hearts go pitter-patter. Ever After does. Nothing else on that day. Full Tilt Boogie, The Governess, Killer Condom, and Seventh Heaven. I don't think we need to discuss it. So, then again.
We need to discuss Killer Condom. No. Full Tilt Boogie, the documentary about the making of From Dusk Till Dawn. Mm-hmm. And it's...
Oh, is that what that is? Okay, yeah.
It's a vanity project, but within that, it's actually kind of this kind of final moment when indie movies kind of became corporatized, and I don't think I don't think they realize that's what the movie is documenting. So that's kind of the interesting subtext that's going on in that movie.
Okay. August 5th, Halloween H2O. That's getting a 401k. That's getting a 4K.
It is.
Yeah, it's on 4K. It got a lot of hype, obviously, because it was going to be a Halloween movie, but done smartly. And I remember the part of the PR that it was executive produced by the screenwriter of Scream 1 and 2. So that was kind of the cachet of it. I remember, I think Tarantino has said a couple of years ago, is that he actually thought, I think he told Bob or Harvey, like, you need to do an Oscar campaign for Jamie Lee Curtis for that movie. So take that as you will.
I think it's better than the first Halloween, okay?
It actually has some scares in it. It is not bad. It's not poorly made. It's obviously better than...
No, I think it's watchable.
What is? I tell you, the one drawback of that movie, and you would think this is like a minor thing, and like okay, whatever, do your thing. This is how kind of cheap and short-sighted the Weinsteins were. They refused to pay for the score. That movie does not have the score. I think it has like 15 seconds of the score in the beginning. And that's it. They didn't want to bother using the original score. And, unfortunately that is like one of the key components of a Halloween movie, and they just didn't want to bother with it. They want to make it their own thing or whatever. And that's one of the drawbacks of that movie.
And it has nothing to do with water, does it?
No.
Okay.
I guess it's supposed to be like Halloween 20, like 20 years after the original.
Oh, totally didn't get that.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Halloween water? What the fuck does that mean?
Right.
I'm kidding. Everybody out there, I knew damn well that it meant 20 years after Halloween. I'm not that. Okay. The next week, August 7th, let's talk about Snake Eyes.
Snake Eyes. First, once again, kind of like a couple of movies on this list.
Wait a minute, $103 million?
Yeah, I know. It's crazy, right?
That's worldwide, right?
Yeah,
worldwide. But it did do well. Remember, this Nicolas Cage was the man at the moment. City of Angels, big old hit earlier in the year. Once again, like a couple of movies on this list. The first 45 minutes are spectacular. Mm-hmm. Then it just kind of peters out. But I mean, it is a watchable movie just to see Cage and Sinise kind of, act together, and then of course that opening 15 minutes is just like astonishing. So it's kind of it's like De Palma, it's second tier, third tier De Palma, but it still has a moments of that De Palma flashiness.
Yeah. Didn't they have trouble with the end? Did they reshot it or something? There was a different ending originally, and then can't remember.
Probably. I mean, I much prefer. I mean, this is his follow-up to Mission Impossible, which I think is a better movie. And then he doesn't really come back to his own briefly a few years later with Femme Fatale.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
People that say they like Snake Eyes, I don't know if they like the movie or they like the opening sequence.
Yeah, it was a huge tidal wave going through the casino. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was. I think they shot it and then they cut it and replaced the reshot ending that we see now. So yeah.
And I know that when it was first announced, Pacino was going to be opposite Nicolas Cage in it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really? I didn't know.
Yeah.
That would have been interesting.
All right. Also on that day, Safe Men and Unmade Beds. Anything?
Unmade Beds, good little indie movie. Unmade Beds, good little.
I haven't seen it.
It's
I see it every day.
no, it's kind of this weird. It's the form is of a documentary, but it's all written and acted. So it's kind of this. It's a very unique experiment, but it is very, very good.
Air Bud, Golden Retriever on August 14th.
Not as good as the first one.
Okay. Strong words. Strong words.
Yeah, that's a low bar, though.
The Avengers, when they talk about bombs of the summer season, this is probably top of the list, right?
Yeah, I mean that movie that was DOA.
Oh, conceived, yes.
It was DOA, and usually even bad movies, even like the worst movies, you're like, okay, well, I see what they're going for, or that's an interesting attempt, or maybe you'll have one scene or one performer, like, okay, well, they're trying something. Nothing. It's just awful. I mean, I'm sure there's a book to be written about the production of that movie.
No one is infallible. That's the lesson learned from the Avengers.
Yep, that's true.
Sean Connery said no to Matrix, no to Lord of the Rings. He said, okay, I can't let any of these go anymore. So he said yes to the Avengers and League of Extraordinary Gentlemen or something.
And he said yes to Highlander 2, Electric Boogaloo.
He said yes to the bunny costume in the Avengers, which is the all-time. That's the meme of the movie, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How Stella got her groove back.
I saw that. I mean, it's in the Terry McMillan. I don't know if you know the novels of Terry McMillan.
Mm-hmm.
It's in that vibe.
Waiting to Exhale,
Bassett,
right? Didn't she do that?
Yeah, those types of books. And but Waiting to Exhale is a better movie. I mean, Angela Bassett, obviously, she's she can always, she's not going to phone in a performance that she's good. And the one thing I did take away when I saw it is that you could tell that Taye Diggs was more than just a model. He was actually he was a good actor and he could be a star. So that was like kind of the highlight.
Return to Paradise and Slums of Beverly Hills. Is this Return to Paradise? Is that the one with Claire Danes and Vince Vaughn? She gets arrested overseas or something?
Jan Hayes and Vince Vaughn and Joaquin Phoenix. Yeah, no.
Okay.
Return to Paradise, terrific movie. Joseph Rubin, Dreamscape and The Good Son, and who can forget Money Train? But he's an uneven director, but when he's on, he's really good. Return to Paradise is terrific. This is the direction I wish Vince Vaughn had gone into more. This more dramatic, less kind of manic thing that he got into. This really showed he had some range here. Joaquin, obviously, it's like he's up and coming. He's terrific, and it's kind of amazing. This is where Anne Hayes is good. She had like 3 films that year. This is her best performance. She's really grounded in the drama, and it's interesting. She has great chemistry with Vince Vaughn in this movie, and they have like no chemistry in Psycho 6 months later. So it's kind of weird that way. But no, Return to Paradise is it's a better film. It has a plot similar to Midnight Express, but it's a better film than Midnight Express because it's not overheated like Midnight Express was. And Slums of Beverly Hills is a good. I mean, it's a great Alan Arkin performance. It's a good movie. I like Slums of Beverly Hills. I wish that director would work more because it took her 9 years before her follow-up, which was The Savages, another terrific movie.
Oh, Tamara Jenkins? Or
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
That was her debut.
August 19th, the indie film that a lot of film geeks talked about that summer, Your Friends and Neighbors.
I'm a big fan myself, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I mean, Neil LaBute, I don't know what it is. I mean, he's kind of like the step cousin to David Mamet, and he made about 3 terrific movies: In the Company of Men, Your Friends and Neighbors, and Nurse Betty. And then after that, kind of just falls off the map. Although I do like the
Shape of Things.
The Shape of
I do too.
I do like that, but it's not. I mean, obviously it's not great LaBute. It's just an interesting sketch of a movie. It's a Zoliana basically. Mm-hmm. But on this film, it is terrific. Jason Patric is terrific. It's kind of the anti Woody Allen movie. It's in that universe, but it's more acidic than something like it's like so. But it is a misogynistic movie. There's no denying that. But I think
is it a misogynistic movie, or is it about misogynistic characters?
I think it's both. I mean, it is a movie about misogyny, obviously, and I think you can make an argument either way if the movie is actually misogynistic.
Yeah.
Go either way. It's kind of like Carnal Knowledge.
Well, I know that Patrick monologue in the spa.
Oh yeah.
It's the thing that really got people.
Oh yeah.
Well, I think that. I mean, I'm sure that monologue is in some actor workshop.
Yeah,
books.
monologue book somewhere. Yeah. I mean, yeah, the funniest part, the one part that I remember most about that movie, because I thought it was just so funny, was I think it's Aaron Eckhart who's trying to masturbate and he can't get anywhere with it in his bed, and he like looks up at the camera that's looking down on him in the bed, and he's like, "Is it me?" That was always funny.
This was part of also the Ben Stiller coming out party, because he had done Zero Effect in January, which he's terrific in a supporting role. Obviously, Something About Mary, which this is the opposite of that. And then I think in October he does Permanent Midnight, the junkie drama. So this was kind of Ben Stiller's coming out party.
Yeah.
And
I remember taking a friend and his wife to this movie. It was Rick, actually, and his wife at the time.
Oh, wow.
And I know afterwards his wife was like, "You're never recommending a movie again."
I guess not.
Okay, so I interviewed Neil LaBute for what?
Was that Lakeview Terrace?
Yeah, that's what it was.
One of
yeah.
those?
No.
His Cape Fear knockoff?
Yeah,
no, I interviewed him for Barry Lyndon on the Kubrick series.
Oh.
Because that's one of his favorite movies.
Well, I thought it was Lakeview Terrace. Okay.
I know, but the other, I mean, I will say one of the great commentaries is LaBute and Soderbergh on Sex, Lies, and Videotape. That is a great commentary.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. August 21st, Blade, which was a hit.
It was a hit, and another unsung, I guess, a pre-Marvel movie, a Marvel movie that was before the MCU.
Yeah.
I guess they're trying to now incorporate Blade.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was fun. I was not as wild about it as like some of the other people were at the time, and I know people were they ride or die with Blade 2 because Guillermo del Toro. But actually, Stephen Dorff is the highlight of Blade as the villain. He's the one that's having all the fun.
Dance with Me, Vanessa Williams.
Terrific dance movie. I mean, like a lot of dance. It's one of those dance studio type movies. But I mean, she's amazing. She should have been a movie star from that movie. The dancing is terrific. So yeah, it's a fun movie.
Dead Man on Campus, The Eel, Next Stop Wonderland. Anything?
Next Stop Wonderland. I believe that's Brad Anderson. He had a few indie movies that people had a follow. My favorite of his is Trans-Siberian, the runaway train movie with Woody Harrelson. Came out in 2008. But I mean, he has a couple of movies that this is one of them that a lot of people has. I forget the blonde.
Hope Davis.
Hope Davis. Yes, this is one of her many movies that people were like getting a cult. It's like her and Parker Posey They're getting like the cult following, like the it girl in the indie world.
Quince, Strike, and Wrongfully Accused. All I know is Wrongfully Accused is the kind of the Zucker Abrams style parody on Fugitive.
Yeah, I think it was Pat Proft. I believe he was the one that wrote and directed that one. He was one of the co-writers on some of the Naked Guns, and it's not. I think Mafia is much better, but it's apples and oranges we're talking about here. But there are a couple of jokes that work, and it's not.
This is Leslie Nielsen, right?
Yeah,
Leslie Nielsen.
Yep. Fugitive
now,
parody.
And I'm being serious about this, Adam. Which one's better, this or Spy Hard?
Oh, this is much better than Spy Hard. Spy Hard was unwatchable to me. I almost walked out. I actually laughed at this. I don't think I laughed once during Spy Hard when you got past the Weird Al opening credit sequence, which that was genuinely funny. But other than that, no, that's. So that was just my sense of humor.
Was Kelly LeBrock the woman in Wrongfully Accused?
I think so. Yeah, I believe so.
I do remember trying to watch this last year because it popped up on Prime.
Yeah.
Okay.
And let's not forget the film in between this. That's better than both of them, Mr. Magoo.
Oh, that's pretty bad too. That is pretty bad. Yeah.
August 28th. Do we have anything to say about I Married a Strange Person, Like It Is, Lovers of the Arctic Circle, or A Merry War?
I know those last two, Lovers of an Arctic Circle. I didn't see it, but I know that got some critical notices, and A Merry War also got some critical notices. Is that Richard E. Grant, or it might be. I think it's Richard E. Grant. It could be, but I don't remember too much. The one film I remember from that week, I don't know if it's on there, is the Frankie Lyman movie. Was also
Why Did Fools Fall in Love? Yeah.
Yeah, that was also that week. Gregory Nava movie, and that has it's minor. There's a little subgenre of these rock and roll biopics. La Bamba, Buddy Holly story. These are obviously the kind of the superior ones, but the Frankie Lyman one is not bad. It's actually kind of fun. It's actually done more in the vein of Great Balls of Fire. It's kind of lighthearted.
I did not know that was a Frankie Lyman movie. I like Frankie Lyman.
Yeah.
God, was he in his 20s when he died?
Yeah, he
Frankie
did. Heroin.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Lorenz Tate, and it's like Vivica A. Fox.
Come on, Adam, sing a couple of bars of Goody Goody. Come on.
So you met someone.
Someone who knocked up on your heels.
Goody Goody.
It's Vivica A. Fox. I think it's Halle Berry.
Yeah, I like Frankie Lyman.
Me too.
And
he was cool.
Little Richard has a fun cameo in that movie.
I need to watch that. Maybe I'll watch that tonight.
He tells everyone to shut up, but it's good.
Huh.
Because he had, it's one of these things. It's structured around a court case because he had 3 wives and they're all fighting over his estate. Yep. And so through the testimony, we get the flashbacks to the Frankie Lyman story. So that's the structure of the film, the court case, and then we get into the good old days.
Finally, on that date, we alluded to it earlier, the final film we'll be discussing on this podcast, 54. Right.
I went to the theaters because I was, it looked. I mean, the trailers were. They cut the trailer brilliantly, and this was Mike Myers post Austin Powers. He had heat after Austin Powers, and the hype was, could he get a Best Supporting Acting nomination for his role? And also remember, this was the summer that Behind the Music premiered. And I remember, the first episode obviously was Milli Vanilli, but then I believe the second or third episode was the Studio 54 episode. And so that was a big episode. And we learned about, and that's the first time we learned about this character, Steve Rebell. And then the movie's coming out and we hear, Mike Myers is playing Steve Rebell. So it was all of that was going on. Then Neve Campbell, this was like her first post-Scream movie, and she was coming off of Wild Things, and they're trying to turn Ryan Phillippe into like the next hot thing. So it had all these, ingredients, and then you go see the movie, and you got a movie set in Studio 54 at the height of the disco era. Okay, the movie should be like...
It's boring.
It should be super, super decadent. I mean, it should make Boogie Nights look tame, by comparison.
Well, I mean, the obvious counterpart to this would be Saturday Night Fever, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Like
yeah. Either one of those. I mean, Boogie Nights, Saturday Night Fever, they have kind of a just, this, throwing energy to those movies and a vitality, that courses through those movies. And there's none of that in 54. There's only a hint at the sexuality that obviously was going on at that time. But
you mean when Mike Myers says to Ryan Phillippe, "I want to suck your cock"?
Right.
That hint.
But even the other characters, and from what I understand, the director's cut, it's more, it doesn't sugarcoat that story, that part of the lifestyle with Breckin Meyer and Ryan Phillippe. And, that's what that film...
I think I remember reading, like, this long piece about... it was an interview with Mark Christopher about how that movie was savaged in its development. Like, it was one of those what could have been pieces. Mm-hmm. I think there's something out there. And, his description of what he set out for it to be originally sounded pretty great. I would recommend highly seeing the documentary that was made a couple of years ago on 54... Studio 54, and that's on Netflix right now.
Totally agree.
I've watched that a couple of times. Yeah, it's really good overview of the whole story.
That is a great documentary. In fact, Kino has the Blu-ray of that, so if anyone wants to own it.
And I found myself at Studio 54 earlier this year, and I was shocked by it. Standing in front of this building where Nathan Lane was doing a play, and I was just looking at the marquee, and I was like, holy shit, this is Studio 54. And you would not know it. I mean, you just had to stand there and imagine the throngs of people out in the street begging to get in, Mm-hmm. Just a period of time, a history.
Amazing.
Adam, is that director's cut, is it officially on Blu-ray, or is it like a bootleg that you got on that?
I think it was officially released digitally. I don't know that there's a physical release of it, but I know there's a digital, you can actually purchase it. So there is a legitimate copy that you can get. I just don't know that there's a physical. I don't recall them releasing it on disc.
Right.
So, yeah.
But I know they did it theatrically. I just didn't know if they ever put it out on disc of any kind.
Yeah, there's a digital version that you can purchase, wherever you go to get your digital stuff.